And now I'd like to bring Chris Carbone and Jillian Domin of Kantar up to the stage to take us through the findings of their research report. As they come up, I want to thank Google, who was the sponsor of this report. It has been an absolute pleasure working with you all. Where's Almudena? Almudena? Well, anyway, Almudena Lara is in the house, and other Googlers are here. We've worked with them over the last 6 months, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you again for your support. Please welcome Chris and Jillian to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. We are excited to be here today. Thank you, Stephen. Jillian and I, as I said, are really excited to be here today and share a bit of an overview with you of the research that we conducted. Thank you, of course, to Google for supporting this work. We want to also thank FOSI for asking Kantar to be its partner on this project. And I'd like to say a special thank you to Emily Mulder, who has been just an awesome partner from FOSI on this work with us. Great collaborator. You provided great guidance to us throughout the process, and we couldn't have done it without you. As far as the goals for today, Jillian and I would like to orient you to the work, so share a little bit about what we were hoping to learn and how we conducted the research. We want to, of course, help you understand some of the highlights of what we learned during the course of the study, get you into the heads of parents and children, and their thoughts and attitudes around different methods of age assurance. We also hope, kind of echoing what Stephen said, that this is a really good jumping off point for discussions, for talks over meals and in the hallway, for the panels that are coming up. So we hope this is a really good jumping off point for you today and the time that we spend together. We're excited to be here in person after not doing this too much in the last couple of years. So it's good to be back and let's take advantage of that. Jillian?
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. So this study was conducted by Kantar on behalf of the Family Online Safety Institute, and it explores awareness, attitudes, and behaviors both of parents and children regarding age assurance, a process that encompasses the methods and solutions used to verify or estimate a user's age on online services and apps. It also explores some related topics, such as views of online safety and privacy, parental monitoring behaviors, and attitudes about who is responsible for keeping children safe online. The research was conducted in the US, UK, and France, and this cross-market approach points to some interesting similarities and differences in how parents view technology and approach managing their children's online activity.
Great, thank you. And so with that background, let's start to step through a little bit of what we learned in the work. As part of the lead up to exploring age assurance, we took a look at how parents and children interact in the digital world more generally. What we found, and I'm sure it's no surprise to a group like this, is that parents are highly engaged with their children's digital lives. Additionally, they're really heavily invested in facilitating safe, positive online experiences. And essentially, this means they want to be in the loop, right? And this implies some degree of online monitoring for most parents. You can see here on the screen, 87% of US parents, 82% of UK parents, and about 65% of French parents report they have used or do currently use tech tools to monitor their children's digital lives. And these data are consistent with what we found throughout the study and in the qualitative sessions as well, in that parents in the US seem to take much more of a hands-on approach than their peers in the UK and in France when it comes to monitoring and oversight. There is a cost, though, to this engagement and oversight, and there are a couple facets to this. The first is the time cost. Parents report that they spend multiple hours per week monitoring their children's online activity. As I mentioned before, the US parents tend to have a more hands-on approach, and this is reflected in the fact that they spend more time than their peers engaged in this way. French parents, as we saw in other parts of the data, and you can see this in the report and also in our qualitative work, they seem to have more of a hands-off approach, the most among the three countries we looked at. There's also another tension that this kind of brings up, a sort of tension that is felt by parents, at least some, in regard to monitoring. And what we heard from parents in the qualitative sessions is there's this constant push and pull between the desire to monitor their children in an effort to keep them safe and viewing positive content online, and on the other hand, wanting to really trust their children, wanting to raise children that are responsible on their own, that are able to be self-sufficient when it comes to the digital world, and who eventually are going to be good online digital citizens. They also want to respect their privacy. And this tension, I think, is brought out nicely with the quote on the slide here. I want to monitor what my daughter is watching and who she's talking to, but I also want to respect her privacy. It's a thin line my wife and I discuss often. And I think it's that last bit of the line that caught my ear. This is not a one-time conversation or decision. This parental oversight is a dynamic that continues from the point where a child first gains access to a device on through as they mature and as we try to give them more autonomy online. So it's a very dynamic and changing situation. Jillian.
Great. Next, we're going to focus on the perspective of the children. So children, like their parents, want safe, positive online experiences. They understand that their parents monitor their online activity with good intentions. The vast majority say that their parents are doing this to keep them from harm, and it pays off. Nearly all the children in the US, UK, and France report feeling safe. At the same time, as Chris mentioned, this can come at a cost. 69% of children in the US, 60% in UK, and nearly half in France describe their parents' management of online activity as very or moderately restrictive. That said, parental oversight does tend to relax as children get older with less negotiation and less restriction. For example, if you looked at this data by tweens versus teens, you would see that the tweens have significantly high reporting over their peers of their parents being very or moderately restrictive. All that said, children are generally understanding and accepting of the rules being there to protect them. It doesn't mean they have to enjoy them, especially as they get older and desire more of that autonomy. You can see in the quotes here, which highlight the understanding of safety. I use social media, and my mom has set the account to private to help me stay safe. The rules are there so other people are not inappropriate online and not to get cyberbullied. But there's also acceptance of the rules and potential consequences. I don't have much of a choice. If my mom finds out I'm not following her rules, she'll take my phone and get the controls back from the Play. She managed to hold out for 3 months on the Play. I don't want that kind of punishment anymore. Kids want a seat at the table, though. 65% of children in the US, 57% in the UK, and 52% in France report wishing that their parents would consider their opinions more when determining the rules and parameters for their technology use. Most children do feel that their parents trust them to use the internet safely, and in the qual we found for some, maintaining that level of trust becomes a big influencer in how they navigate the digital experience. They don't want to jeopardize that trust, and as we saw earlier, potentially face the consequences. This desire to have a seat at the table on part of the children presents an opportunity for technology companies to help facilitate conversations between parents and children about age-appropriate online activity. By continuing to develop new educational and functional tools, companies can encourage parents and children to collaboratively engage in the age assurance process.
Thanks, Jillian. Flipping back from the children's view back to the parents' view again, this work really underscored the fact that parents see themselves as having the greatest responsibility for managing their children's online activity and access to age-appropriate content. They feel it's on them. They willingly accept this responsibility, and you can see with the data here, they see themselves in the driver's seat with this more so than tech companies or the government, which are the other two entities we asked about. Parents manage this in a couple different ways. There's more on this in the report, but this can look like a parent downloading an app ahead of letting a child use it so they can test it out and see what some of its features are. Or checking reviews to see if it is a child-friendly app. So again, they feel this responsibility, they own it. At the same time, it's coupled with a concern. And the concern that they feel is that they're not always equipped to succeed. So parents report feeling overwhelmed by the task of understanding safety measures and what's available to them. They feel worn down by the need to, on almost a daily basis, try to enforce device rules that they may have set up with their children. And in the qualitative groups, we really heard about this fact that parents feel outmatched. Their kids know more than they do about technology. Their children adapt more quickly when a new platform is launched, when new features are released. And so there's definitely this feeling that parents are always playing catch up, that they never have as much information as their kids do or understanding. And this is definitely a sense of parental stress and uncertainty. And the quote on the screen, I think it sums it up. I hope I'm doing enough. I fear that I'm not. And this feeling of being overwhelmed and outmatched by their kids means that parents are open to other solutions and to help. Right? They see an opportunity for greater involvement here to take some of the load off them. Roughly 6 in 10 parents report that tech companies and governments should be more involved in protecting children online. It's the highest share in the US. 67% feel that tech companies should be more involved. So they're open to this partnership, and they probably would also benefit from a better understanding of all the positive things that government agencies and technology companies are doing today. So this is a communications opportunity for the industry to help parents recognize what's already being done.
All that said, circumvention happens. Often the parent can even be involved in that. They feel the current parameters in place are not a fit for every platform, every circumstance, or every child. Essentially, one size doesn't fit all. As one mother shared with us, the age should help to ensure that the children are getting the correct and appropriate material. I think this is great, but at times can limit children too much. Depending on the circumstance and their planned level of oversight, many parents are circumventing age requirements in apps that they deem too restrictive. Methods like birth date are cited as easier to circumvent than others, and a couple reasons we heard people are circumventing include for anonymity. For example, putting in a birth date that may represent the year their child was born, but not necessarily their real birth date, thinking they're protecting their privacy. Or when a parent just deems that their kid should have access, even if they don't meet the age requirement that's set.
Okay, great. So let's jump into a bit more of what we learned about age assurance methods. Specifically, one of the things that we wanted to explore in this work is parents and children's perceptions of age assurance. So how do they see it? What do they think it is? What is it to them? And when we did this, the greatest share of parents and children selected the idea that it is a process to restrict children from accessing certain content online. So that makes sense. It is that, of course. What we found interesting is that a slightly smaller share of parents reported that it is about ensuring safe and beneficial online experiences for children. In the most extreme case, in France, only 27% of parents and children selected that as one of their two choices here. That it is about safe and beneficial online experiences. I think when we combine that with what we heard in the qualitative research, there seems to be a sentiment that age assurance it's like a defensive measure. It's something that keeps the bad stuff on the internet at bay, rather than the more positive idea or view of it, which could be about the fact that it helps people explore the internet and find age-appropriate, positive content, the things that they want to get from it. And of course, that parents want their kids to be getting from online interaction. So I think this suggests an opportunity to improve people's understanding of age assurance, provide better clarity about the purpose, how the process works, and especially how parents and children can benefit and improve their online experience by engaging with these tools.
As you'll see here, there's no clear winner or standout approach when parents and children are asked about their preference for current age assurance methods. Parents, which might not come as a surprise, hearing the responsibility that they put on themselves in this situation, are most preferential of parental validation. In this method, they're still in the driver's seat, taking the responsibility on themselves, and they want to be in the loop. They don't want to be completely removed from the situation. And you can see in these parents' words here, a father in France told us, parental validation via text or app seems to me to be the most appropriate and effective method. Parents can control and prevent if necessary. But if you look at children, on the other hand, they like the methods that let them have a little more autonomy.
Right, and so as Jillian said, there's sort of no lead horse in this race, and this ambivalence in preference to us, it sort of comes down to this tension between how well people think the method works, so its effectiveness, and how invasive people perceive it to be. Parental verification via text or app, which, as Jillian said, is as close to a lead horse as we have, is seen as being quite effective. 61% of parents in the US and UK and 59% in France see it as an effective method. At the same time, it is not perceived as being especially invasive. In fact, there's a 46-point spread between the effectiveness score and the invasiveness score for verification via text or app, parental verification, in France. It's about 45% in the UK and 40% in the US. So this method really strikes in people's minds and parents' minds a nice balance, as well as the fact that it puts parents in control, right? Which, as Jillian said, parents want to be in the loop. They want to be the center of these decisions, especially for younger children. Another age assurance method that seemed to strike this balance in people's minds from the data we have were biometric methods. Now, with regard to terminology, we tried to use terms that would be easy for respondents to understand, and so we posed this as any type of biometric technology applied to age assurance, which could include facial or fingerprint scanning. And what we found is that about 6 in 10 parents across the US, UK, and France perceive biometric age assurance methods as effective, which is on par with parental verification via text or app. Biometric methods were judged to be slightly more invasive than verification via text or app, but were actually seen as being less invasive than some other methods we tested. And you can see more about this in the report. But for example, using financial information such as credit or debit card was seen as more invasive than biometrics by parents. You might also notice on the screen that children in the UK and especially in France viewed biometric as not very invasive, right? And so from this point of view, I think it makes sense. It does put them a bit more in the sort of central role, and This could be good news for methods such as age estimation in the future, that biometrics is not seen as being overly invasive. Jillian, I think you have a little bit more to say about biometrics as well on this slide.
I think it's on the next one. It's in the next section. Yeah, great. So the applied use of biometrics appears, as Chris said, in where it stands currently, but also thinking forward as a promising method of age assurance as parents and children view it as effective at assessing age. It's likely driven by that balance of effectiveness and invasiveness, which we saw previously. So you can see here a good number of participants in the US and UK, and even around half in France, are likely to use biometric methods for age assurance. But to really make a true informed decision, the parents and children will need to understand any privacy and safety implications of age assurance methods, and in turn feel positive about what they gain by participating. What is in it for them? What value do they get out of it? What is that experience online then going to be like?
Good. And I guess one more point we'd like to make as we start to wrap up, and this is related to where people experience the age assurance process. So anecdotally, in the qualitative research, we heard some appetite from parents for age assurance processes to happen on a per account basis or even a per device basis, rather than doing it with each new app or platform that someone is signing up for and engaging with. We tested that in the quant with the larger sample and found that if offered, there was a slight preference among parents to go through the age assurance process on a per account basis, right? Which I think makes sense. It would streamline things potentially and not require them to go through it with each new download. Age assurance on a per device basis was the least preferred idea, perhaps due to the fact that families often share devices. Younger siblings might end up with access to content that is not age appropriate. So I think, again, all of this links back to what we've been saying throughout the presentation about parents feeling overwhelmed, not fully equipped with the right tools, and looking potentially for simpler ways to provide their children with age appropriate content. So to wrap up, I think this study definitely showed us how complex and multifaceted this topic is. I think we came in thinking that was the case. That was definitely confirmed. It's something that is made even more complex because it intersects with the complex dynamics that happen within a family, that happen with that parent-child relationship, and that changes over time, right? As a child matures and expects and deserves more autonomy. There are clear opportunities, though, to continue to make real progress if we do a few things and continue to develop robust technical solutions, as well as continue to enhance our understanding of the attitudes and the priorities of both parents and children, the folks that age assurance impacts directly. This will mean educating and engaging and empowering parents and children to help them understand how the age assurance process works and what the benefits are, to echo what Jillian said a minute ago, right? And this will help to cultivate stronger support and adoption of age assurance tools. Secondly, elevating the voice of children is critical, putting them at the center of design and implementation, especially as they mature and become more independent and responsible for managing their own digital lives. So, the question here is kind of how can we create age assurance tools that protect children when they need that protection, and also that starts to help to educate them, right? To make them more responsible digital citizens. Are there ways to build that into the process in some way? It will also mean addressing the tensions that we've highlighted in this presentation, for example, between invasiveness and effectiveness, and all the while protecting and preserving safety and privacy with each age assurance method. And finally, it will mean gathering diverse players from across the industry, from government, policy, et cetera, as we're doing today, to really set a long-term vision for age assurance. And this is important because I think we can all acknowledge, as technology changes, as the types of platforms evolve, age assurance is not going to look the same in 2025 or 2030 even than it does today. So how can we start to think about a long-term vision for age assurance, one that will help future-proof it against the changes that we're going to see in the future? So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening, excited to engage further in the panel, and thank you again to FOSI and Google.